Let's be honest, studying can be a total grind. You put in the hours, you highlight everything, but when it comes time to remember it, nothing. If you're tired of that feeling, you're in the right place. We're going to build a really simple, repeatable system to make sure what you learn actually sticks without all the late-night stress.
Oh yeah, we've all been there, right? You spend the entire night before a test just mainlining coffee and information. You're reading, you're highlighting, rereading, and then you sit down for the test and your mind just goes completely blank. It is one of the most frustrating feelings imaginable.
So, here's the big idea, the fundamental shift we have to make. The problem isn't how long you study, it's how you study. Most of us just do passive review, staring at a page, hoping it sinks in. That's like watching someone else work out and expecting to get stronger. It just doesn't work. What we need is active recall. That's when you force your brain to pull out the information, to do the mental heavy lifting itself. That's what builds real, lasting memory.
Look, this constant cycle of learning and forgetting, it's not a you problem, it's a system problem. So instead of just giving you a bunch of random study tips you'll forget, we're going to build a proper, cohesive system. A learning machine you can actually rely on for every single one of your classes.
And the best part? The whole foundation of this system isn't some massive, overwhelming change to your life. Nope, it's just a small set of habits you'll practice every single day. Seriously, think of it like compound interest for your brain. These tiny, quick actions build on each other day after day, creating these huge results over time.
So, let's dive in and break down this core routine. It's a really simple loop that just wraps around each of your classes to make sure you're absorbing and holding on to as much as possible. And here it is, the big picture of that daily habit. See, we're not talking about adding hours to your day. It's just a few minutes before class to get ready, paying attention during, and then a quick, targeted review right after. That's it. This simple little loop changes everything. Okay, step 1. Before you even set foot in that classroom, take 5, maybe 10 minutes to prime your brain. Just skim the chapter, look at the big headings, the bold words. But here's the real magic. Write down 2 or 3 questions you think the lecture will answer. This tiny act changes you from being a passive sponge into an active detective, on the hunt for clues.
Now, during the actual class, try using the Cornell note-taking method. That's where you divide your page up for main ideas, key terms, and a summary at the bottom. And here's a super simple but powerful trick. If the professor says something that doesn't quite click, don't panic. Just put a little question mark next to it in your notes and move on. Don't let it break your flow. You'll circle back to it later.
All right, now listen up, because if you only remember one single thing from this whole explainer, make it this. You absolutely must review your notes the very same day you take them. No exceptions. Think of a new memory like wet cement. Right after class, it's still soft. You can still shape it. That immediate review is what stamps the information firmly into place before it hardens. It's what starts that crucial process of moving it into your long-term memory.
And this after-class review isn't passive. It's a workout. Your job is to fill in any gaps in your notes, go back and answer those questions you wrote beforehand, and make just a handful of flashcards for the most important concepts. I especially love this little technique called the 3-2-1 method. You just quickly jot down 3 new things you learned, 2 connections to stuff you already knew, and 1 question you still have. It's so effective. All right. Once you've got that daily routine locked in and it feels like a habit, we can start to layer on some more powerful, specialized tools for dealing with the really dense stuff, like your textbooks and lecture notes.
For those monster textbook chapters that feel impossible to get through, your new best friend is a method called SQ3R. It's a 5-step active reading strategy that will completely transform how you get information out of a book.
Here's how it works. First, you survey the chapter, just like a scout mapping out the territory ahead. Then, you become a detective and turn all those headings and subheadings into questions. Next, you read with a mission. You're actively hunting for the answers to your questions. After each section, you stop and recite the main points out loud from memory. And finally, you review your understanding with things like the end of chapter questions. It's a total game changer.
And while you're reading, we need to talk about highlighting. The golden rule is this: less than 10%. Seriously, here's how you do it right. You only highlight the specific phrase or sentence that directly answers one of the questions you just created. This forces you to be incredibly picky and turns your textbook from a sea of fluorescent yellow into a laser-focused set of key answers.
Now, for your lecture notes, the trick is to process them within 24 hours. Clean up your messy handwriting, and then go back and write potential test questions in the margin next to the key concepts. And if the professor ever says something like, "This is important," or "You'll see this again," put a big star next to it. Then, for the most important part, you cover up your notes and try to answer those questions you wrote in the margin. That's your mini self-test right there.
So, you've learned the material for today. Awesome. But, how do you make sure you still remember it a month from now for the final exam? Well, the secret isn't studying harder, it's studying smarter. It's all about when you review.
This right here is the power of spaced repetition. It's the total opposite of cramming. Instead of one giant, painful study session, you do several very short, 10-minute self-quizzes spaced out over time. Every time you successfully recall a piece of information, you're sending a powerful signal to your brain that says, "Hey, this is important. Don't forget it." And that's the signal that builds strong, long-lasting memories.
A super easy way to manage this is with a simple two-pile flashcard system. If you get a card wrong, it goes in the hard pile, which you review every single day. If you get it right, it graduates to the known pile, which you only need to look at about once a week. This automatically focuses your precious energy right where it's needed most. And of course, you can and should tweak this system for different subjects. For things like math and science, doing practice problems is way more valuable than just rereading the chapter. And you should keep a mistake log to track where you go wrong. For history or English, things like timelines or practicing 60-second summaries of a key theme can be huge. And for languages, daily vocab flashcards with full example sentences are non-negotiable.
Okay, so you're putting in the work, you're building the habits, but how do you actually know if it's paying off? How can you be sure the system is really working? Let's talk about the proof. Here's kind of what a successful week should feel like. It's a quick note cleanup after each class, about 20 to 30 minutes of focused review each night, and then maybe a slightly longer session on the weekend to summarize things and do some practice. See how it's all about consistency, not intensity? This is how you learn effectively without completely burning yourself out.
And these are the real benchmarks of success. This is how you'll feel it working. It's when you can explain a topic to a friend from start to finish without even glancing at your notes. It's when you're faced with a problem you've never seen before and you can actually figure it out. And maybe the best feeling of all, it's when you come back to the material a week later and it all just clicks back into place with a quick refresh. That is what real learning feels like. So that's the system. It's active, it's structured, and it really, really works. The only thing left to do is to actually start. But hey, don't try to do everything all at once. That's a recipe for burnout. Just pick one thing. Looking at everything we've talked about, what's the one single technique that you're going to try today?